The grade setup is the next part to look at. We have our assignment 1, assignment 2, quiz 1, quiz 2. We can go to grades. To make things easy for you to follow, I've set up student 1, student 2. Student 1 and 2 have completed some of the activities. So they've completed the quiz 1, quiz 2. They've completed assignment 1, assignment 2. We have our course total. And you'll notice that the course total maps 0 plus 5 plus 50, that's 55 plus 1 is 56, and our total is 56. You'll also notice that there is red, writing, and green. The red is classed as a fail, green is a pass. So for this one, it is 1 out of 1 is a pass, so 1 is a pass, which is green, 0, which is obviously they got the answer wrong, it was only the one quiz question. It's going to be red and 0. This one here, the second student hasn't completed yet. And this was the essay that needs to be graded. So this one hasn't been graded. This is 10 out of 10. The student received 5. 10 out of 10 is a pass. They only 5, so it's in red as well. This pass is 80 out of 100. The second student received 100, so this is green, 50 for the first one. And again, 1 and 5 for the two results there. Now you'll notice that there is an overall average, which is produced at the bottom, and a total across, and then an overall average from the course total. So that's the first part. Now we're looking at just the setup part at the moment. So if we go into setup, which is the first tab under the grader report, you'll see here we have our list of activities. What I would like to do is to move the quizzes down below the assignment. I have the assignments at the top, so I'll show you how to do that. Click on the arrow beside quiz 1. You'll see it changes to show you some drop areas, and then we can click on the drop area and it will move quiz 1 down to that drop area. We can do the same with quiz 2. Place it right at the bottom. We now have our assignments 1, 2 and quizzes 1 and 2 in that order. We won't worry about weightings yet. We'll look at weightings a bit later in a section specifically on weightings because it complicates things quite dramatically. You can see our maximum grade, so that's the grade in this case 100, which is out of 100. This one is 10, which is out of 10, 1, which is out of 1, and 10 again out of 10 for our quiz. What we can do with this is we can display the content differently using the gradebook setup. And what I mean by display it differently, at the moment, if I jump back to view, you'll see the students' results are displayed as a number, so 50 out of 100 or 1 out of 10. We go back to setup, and let's choose our assignment first of all, which is 80 out of 100 is a pass, and we go to edit and edit settings. We'll leave the item name, we can't actually change these settings, they're already fixed. We can choose show. And in show, it has a grade to pass, which we can change from here, but we'll leave. We have a grade display type, and that's what we'll look at first. So if I go down to, currently it's on real, which is the actual number, the real value. If we go to real and percentage, and I just choose save. Remember we were looking at assignment number 1, so let's go to view. And you can see here with assignment number 1, the grade that they achieved was 50. And that's also showing it as a percentage. So 50 out of 100 is 50%. So that's showing us the grade for the assignment 1 and also the overall grade. And it replaces the value, the actual value and a percentage as well in the same column. Let's go back to setup. Back into our assignment number 1. Go to edit, edit settings for assignment 1. Show more. This time we will look at letter. I'll leave it as real and letter and choose save. Back to our gradebook view, our grader report. Now we have the actual grade or the value, and then we have an F. Here we have the actual value and an A. What that is telling us, as the student received 50 out of 100, and according to our scale of how our letters work, they received an F, or possibly class that as a fail. And then A because they received 100. Where do we find that? If we go into letters, you can see here in letters, we have our percentages. So 100% is an A, or 93% to 100% is an A. And down here, anything between 0 and 59.99 is an F. You can change this as well. This is set at the system level, but you can change this to a course level grade as well. Let's jump back to our view. So we have 50 and F. Now, because the fail and the A may make more sense to the student as a percentage, we can change that to a percentage with the letter as well. So let's go to Setup. Go across here to Edit Settings, Show More. And these are all the different options we have. So we can say letter and then a percentage in brackets, which is probably a nicer format. Let's save and display. Choose View. And now the student has an F because they received 50% and an A because they received 100%. And this is a much better view for the student and makes a lot more sense to them. It's much more logical. So this is where all the settings can be changed to set up how the grades are viewed in the gradebook for the student. And if you go through and change those settings, it will begin to make a lot more sense to you. Another common question is the total at the end. So this is the course total. At the moment it's showing a real value, but obviously many students may want to know what their total percentage value is from all of their grades added together. So we can show that as a percentage as well. To do that, go into Setup. Beside Grades Demonstration 1, we choose Edit Settings. Go to Show More, and this time in the grade display type, we choose Real and Percentage. Or if you wanted to, it could go the other way, Percentage and Real. Select Save. Back to our view. And if we scroll across now, we have 46.28% with our grade, or with a value of 56 out of whatever the total was for all of them. And then 95%. So I can see this student has nearly completed everything based on percentages. That may make sense to you when everything isn't weighted, but you may need to add weightings to things as well. And we're going to look at weightings, like I said, in another topic, where we'll go and set up the weighting for all these. So that's the first main part of how to use the setup options for the grades to try and display them in a way that is more appropriate for students. A couple more things. Back in Setup. So this is the gradebook setup and how we display the gradebook setup in here. We could also add categories and divide things into categories. So we could choose Add Category and put in Assignments. I'll just choose Save Changes for now, just so you can see where that goes and how that belongs. So we have our assignments title, assignments total just here. If I choose on the drop down Assignments, I can then move our assignment into the Assignments box. And again, I'll move this assignment down into here. This is Assignment 2. I could create another category, call this one Quiz, Save Changes, select the arrow beside the quiz, go down to our quiz and add it down the bottom, choose our next quiz and add that down below as well. You can see now that you'll notice all the weightings have changed in numbers, and so these weightings are based on weightings under particular category. What we can do now is have a subtotal of each of these categories. If we view this from the student's perspective, we go to View to see what it looks like. You'll see now that we have our assignments, and then we have an assignment total. Then we have our quizzes, and we have a quiz total, and then we have a course total. So you may find that a useful way of being able to present subgroups of information to the students first, or categories of information. And you can also display those categories differently as well. So they could be percentages, or they could be classed as a pass or fail for a collection of activities rather than just be for one individual one. So you could have your percentages here for assignments 1 and 2, and then you could have a pass and fail for the assignments total by changing the settings for the assignment like we did before with those edit settings. Back to setup, a couple of extra bits that we have in the setup area is the course grade settings. Course grade settings here, I won't go through all of them, but it's probably worth just showing you a couple of these. Settings are really what is displayed, either displayed or hidden, is mostly what the settings do. So I'll just take you down to the user report. This is the report the users get to see. You can decide whether you want to show the actual grades or hide grades. You can show or hide feedback. You can show weightings if you don't need that displayed for the student. Hide and show averages. Show letter grades. At the moment that's hidden. And this is in the user report we're talking about here. Any of these settings can be changed, plus the number of decimal places is something you can add in there as well. Probably an important one is hide totals if they contain hidden items. And sometimes if there's a hidden item in there and you add the totals to that, it becomes confusing to students because they can't see it, it's a hidden item. So you may want to hide that from the totals as well so that it makes sense to them in what they can actually see. So that's really important, that one. So that's an overview of how to set up the gradebook, or just a part of the gradebook. We're going to go into more detail into each part as we go through this. So that's the overview of Gradebook, setting everything into, or some things into categories, being able to display things differently and look at the course totals. Now I did mention that we would go in to set up and have a look at weightings. So I'm going to explain what the weightings are. And to do that, it's probably easier to take things back out of these categories when we do the weighting, so it's still a little bit easier to understand. So I'll just take them back out. You can see now that I've taken those categories out. So we just have our 2 assignments, our 2 quizzes, and the weightings are defaulted, as in we can't change them, they're locked in. To change them, we need to tick the box beside the weighting. And what the weighting does is it uses these weights, or these weightings, to calculate the total down in our course total for the grades demonstration 1 category. What we can do, for example, is if we decided that our assignment was actually worth 40% of the total result, our second assignment was worth another 40%, and our quizzes were only worth 10% each, even though the values are 80 out of 100, 10 out of 10, we've decided that really 10 out of 10 means 40%. If I don't change this last one, but I just choose save, you'll notice that the weightings automatically adjust the last one to fit in up totaling 100%. So that means that our final grade that we show for students will now be displayed as a weighted grade instead. And that works well for percentages too, so it saves you doing all those calculations. If we go to view, and we have a look here, you can see if we scroll across that now our first student has received 29%. Because we use those weightings, our student for the assignment 1, this is 40% of their result. And because they earned 50 out of 100, 50%, they only receive 20% for their total because of assignment 1, because of the weighting that was put on it. So 20% will come from this assignment 1 for this student. Over here they received 1 out of 10, which is 1/10. This assignment was out of 40% as well. So that gives them only 4%. So far we have 24% is our total for our student. For our last one, we have 0. So they haven't received anything here. And then in quiz 2, they've received 5 out of 10, which is 50%. Now it's 50% of the only 10% that they received for this particular quiz, because it's weighted as 10%. So therefore, it is only going to be 5% that they add in for this one. So if we jump back now, we had This is weighted at 40%, they earned 50, so it's only 20%. 20% there, 4% here, so 24%, plus this one here, which was 50% is what they got out of the total. What did I say? 24 plus 50% of 10% would be 5. So 24 plus 5 is 29%, and that's how we got our 29%. And that 29% will then be calculated over the total number, or total value of the whole course. So that's where we got our 29% from. Hopefully that made some sense, and if not, get a pen and paper out and redraw that for yourself so that it can make complete sense how that was structured. That's the last thing we had to look at in our grade report setup. There obviously is some more parts to it, but we'll look at those in individual topics when we go through our grade scales, our grade letters, and our grade reports.